Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Sunday, October 5th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Illinois game in 6 days, the game against Michigan in 55 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at gratefulgriddleoh.com. Ohio State takes care of Minnesota 42-3. I don't even know how else to describe it. I mean, they crushed them, yes, but it just kind of feels like it was a little more in line with, okay, Minnesota's in here, okay, and you just sort of brush them aside. Joined by Kevin Noon of BuckeyeHuddle.com. Kevin, I do wonder if the Penn State-UCLA score maybe got Ohio State just a little more focused before kickoff on Saturday night.
Yeah, there was a lot of craziness on Saturday, and especially in that 3:30 window, so having those things lead in certainly doesn't hurt. And then let's go to the first drive for Minnesota. They hold on to the ball for almost half a quarter, go 66 yards. A team that only gets 162 yards of total offense in the game ends up having to settle for a field goal. But Twitter was a little uncomfortable. People were getting a little dancy out there about what was happening at that point. But I think that Ohio State took care of things. I think all of our predictions were probably pretty close. Mm-hmm. Some idiot who's sitting here said 13 points for Minnesota. That they would have needed like 13 quarters to get there, I think.
And just for those of you listening on the podcast as opposed to watching on YouTube, Kevin was pointing at himself there. Just to be clear.
I owned it. I owned it.
Yeah, you go through the drives. 13 plays, 66 yards. We've seen over and over. The opening drive. Sometimes you've usually got something planned. You've looked at what the other team's doing, and it's a little bit of a feeling out process, and the offense maybe has a little bit of an advantage there. And so you see the opening drive, there's a touchdown or there's whatever, and Minnesota took the ball. Minnesota won the toss and took the ball. You don't ever do that on the road because then you lose the chance to do the middle eight thing. You give the crowd a chance to get real loud real early in the game. So they did that, and I thought, oh, they've really got something cooking here. And they went 13 plays, 66 yards right down the field, got inside the Ohio State 10, ended up kicking a field goal, and then after that, nothing. 3 plays, 8 yards. 3 plays, 2 yards. 5 plays, 19 yards. 3 plays, negative 6 yards. 5 plays, 17 yards. 3 plays, 0 yards. 3 plays, negative 1 yards. At that point, it's 35-3. And then they put together a 10-play, 52-yard drive that ended up in a missed field goal at the end. But, that's the vast majority of the game. From the point that Minnesota had a 3-0 lead to the point that Ohio State had scored 35 unanswered points, they did nothing on offense, basically, at all.
When you look here, and Ohio State did not have takeaways. There was a turnover on downs, but there wasn't, it wasn't like drives were killed because of a fumble or an interception. I mean, Ohio State just really went all boa constrictor on them and squeezed the life out of them. And on the other side, Ohio State goes, three straight touchdowns, then a couple of punts, and then 3 straight touchdowns, and then the end of the game. So, again, more possessions this time around than maybe in the last couple of games for Ohio State. But once again, I think the proof is there that they've got the dudes and they've got the system. Now, that doesn't mean that you're always going to execute it 100%. There's a lot of tape in this one that the coaches are going to be going through. There's already people at the Woody as we're recording this that are going through it, and there are going to be a lot of teaching lessons. And not everybody's going to be in Champions Dinner. I'll assure you of that. That's by design. But this was a very matter-of-fact 39-point win.
Yeah, it's interesting because this was a game where I expected Ohio State to really get after the quarterback because this was not a mobile quarterback like they faced all the other weeks this season. And so you thought, okay, they're really going to be able to get after this guy. And they ended up with 1 sack. 1 sack, no turnovers, which you hear that. If that's all I tell you about a defense, you go, oh boy, they had a rough day. But they had 7 tackles for loss. They were just kind of not on the field long enough to pile up any stats. It was really an impressive performance, and it's just another week of Matt Patricia he's just made it look effortless. I'm sure there's a lot of work and a lot of knowledge and a lot of preparation and a lot of practice and a lot of meetings and a lot of all that kind of stuff, film study that goes into this, but he has just made this look so easy for the first 5 games of the season.
And we won't talk about, or maybe we will, his predecessor and the issues that he had against UCLA. And I mean, I think that everybody there deserves, to to wear the dunce cap on that one because in that game because there was just a lot of issues on both sides of the ball. But yeah, Matt Patricia certainly has gotten the most out of his guys. I mean, people are like, well, he must be like a wizard. Well, he's a wizard who walked into a room with a lot of talented players. So let's give credit where credit is due. It's not like he sat there and took, this ragtag bunch of underachievers and turned them into, the bad news Bears and turned them into the 85 Chicago Bears or anything like that. But, we've seen a lot of good teams kind of blow it on, with coordinator hires, and Ohio State certainly through 5 games has not blown anything.
No, they have really kind of just handled their business. And when you come from the NFL, a huge point spread in the NFL is 2 touchdowns. If you're a 2-touchdown favorite, that's about as big a point spread as you're going to see outside of like real edge cases. Ohio State is routinely a 4-touchdown favorite. That is not unusual. So I feel like Matt Patricia coming from the NFL where you have to really out-scheme your opponent and you can't rely on talent advantages, massive talent advantages. I feel like that's like taking the donut off the bat, and it's like, boy, this sure is light. If now that I have a Caleb Downs and I have Sonny Styles, and I mean, but you go around the defense, and Davison Igbinosun has been really good this year. Jermaine Matthews has been really good this year. Arvell Reese has been really good this year. Caden Curry. I mean, you can go through the whole defense. I can name lots of Ohio State players, as it turns out. But
yeah, they're all on your computer.
They are all on my computer, yes. But I could do most of it without it. Not to brag, but it has just been so consistent for Ohio State where through 5 games, they've given up 2 touchdowns. Both were kind of a little bit fluky. Both were plays where they were both passes where the defender was right there. They have not had like a big bust this year. They haven't had, it's just been so just well coached, well structured, well taught, well executed. This has been, where does this rank in terms of the best Ohio State defenses? We're through 5 weeks, okay? We understand you're through 5 games. Through this point of the season, I think back to like the 1996 defense was kind of in that kind of area. 2016, maybe. I mean, I'm struggling to think of Ohio State defenses that were clearly better than this one. 2019, maybe.
Right. I've already done some research on this.
Okay.
In 1973, which I was 1 to 2 years old for that, and I don't know if my partner over here was necessarily really alive and
I
kicking.
was a twinkle in someone's eye.
But we look here in 73, they gave up 7 in the first game, 3, 3, 0, 7, 0, 0, 0. Remember, that is the year of the 10-10 tie against Michigan. Great documentary on BTN called Tiebreaker about it. Certainly, I remember the documentary. I don't remember the 73 season, but yeah, I'm starting to put some notes together about this, and I'm sure there are going to be some old heads there that are going to appreciate it because it's going to take them back to maybe their collegiate days or whatever. I mean, at least their youth, but yeah, this defense is starting to get into some of that rarefied air.
Yeah, and that team gave up 7 points to Minnesota, so this team clearly better. Math don't lie. We should talk about the other side of the ball as well, because there was plenty to like on that side of the ball as well. Let's start with Carnell Tate, because this turned very early into, capital T, capital C, capital T, the Carnell Tate game.
Capital G.
Capital G, yeah. Nine catches, 183 yards, 3 catches of between 45 and 50 yards. Only 1 touchdown, but 9 catches on 10 targets, averaging 20 yards per completion. That'll play.
Yeah, but he was only 90% on his targeting rate. I mean, he obviously there was a miss in there somewhere, but yeah, he was sitting at like $150 or something pretty early in the game, and it was like, yeah, I mean, he's not necessarily going to be putting up 3 bills. They're going to call the dogs off by then, but we're certainly going to get him to 2, and it didn't necessarily happen there. But you throw for 341 in the game, he gets 183 of them. I mean, it certainly was, a game of where Well, it wasn't. Was it the Washington game, or was it the game before the Washington game where he largely wasn't there? I'm like, well, that's an anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
That's an anomaly. There's going to be a game where he's going to go for 200 or something, and didn't quite get there. But I mean, he was on. He and Sayin really have seem to have a connection there. They're one of his touchdowns. Or his touchdown. I don't remember it being super contested at that point.
No, he was behind the defender,
Right,
and
but
the defender is in the photo, but he's not right there.
Right there, but
Yeah.
a tremendous game. I mean, when we're not talking about Jeremiah Smith, who had two receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, but he does that every game, so is that even worth mentioning? I mean, they played the national anthem. That's what they do. They do play the national anthem. Jeremiah Smith gets 2 touchdowns, and that's just kind of like part of the game.
And punch and pie for all.
Yes. Just to avoid having this be the Chris Farley, Paul McCartney SNL sketch where it's like, remember when you were in the Beatles? That was awesome.
That was awesome.
That was, this is a Ohio State team where there's a lot going right now for this Ohio State team. You'd like to see them run the ball a little better.
You would. I mean, they run for 133 yards, which is deceptive because 50-some yards of that probably came in like real garbage time at that point. I mean, it all matters. I mean, I thought it was good that James Peoples was able to get out there and have some success. I mean, sometimes you need to taste a little success to have future success, but no, the running game still kind of bogged down. And when we talked about there being tape that you need to sit there and kind of go through, the Lincoln Kienholz third down package or whatever wasn't necessarily ready for prime time.
No, that feels a little square peg round hole where they've brought him in and it was third and 2 or something like that, and I think he might have lost a yard or something on that. They've tried that with Devin Brown. They tried that with Tate Martell. Like, we've seen this kind of over the years, and it seems like such a great idea, and then it never quite works out in execution for whatever reason. And it's happened with multiple quarterbacks that it hasn't worked. So, they're gonna keep trying stuff, and my guess would be that would not be something if they get to the national championship game. That's probably not something you see in the national championship game, but they're at the point where they're going to be trying stuff, and there are still some challenges ahead where they're going to have to, next week's game, it's on the road. You're playing an Illinois team that's, better than Minnesota, I think is probably safe to say.
Yeah.
We all saw the Indiana-Illinois game. We all know, but they also, they've played reasonably well. That was that is clearly the outlier game for them right now this season. So we'll see what Ohio State looks like on the road against Illinois. That's a place where weird stuff can happen sometimes. And then they've got to go up to Madison the week after that, and then a week off, and then Penn State comes to town. And I'm sure I didn't see anything about the game. I'm sure they were just playing UCLA. I'm sure it went fine. So
That's why I don't bet.
Yeah, that's a good. If it was me, I just would have hit the UCLA money line, but I guess I'm just built different.
That was plus 1,300 for you degenerates out there.
I bet it was. Ohio State 42, Minnesota 3. Buckeyes just kind of handled their business. It had flashes of excitement. There's a lot for Ohio State fans to feel happy about, but it was kind of a workmanlike, just sort of, chew them up and spit them out kind of performance. Buckeyes 42-3 over Minnesota, headed to Illinois next week. We'll be there covering the Buckeyes in Champaign, taking on Brett Bielema and the Fighting Illini. The game will be big noon on Saturday. It could be a nice early start. Don't have to deal with the after dark Champaign winds, I guess. So that's something to look forward to.
No, you can just deal with the mid-morning Champagne winds.
It's listen, you got to deal with them at some point. Best to get it out of the way early. So we'll be there for that. We'll have plenty of coverage for you all week long, previewing that game at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Plenty to talk about as well from this win over the Minnesota Golden Gophers. We'll be breaking that down with our scheme guys, our X's and O's gurus, and also some significant recruiting visitors as well. Saturday night, we'll be talking about all of that with you at BuckeyeHuddle.com. and at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.